My fiancée slept with my best friend before our engagement, so I vanished completely and let them realize what they had just lost. I'm a 30-year-old guy, and I thought I'd finally found the kind of love people write songs about. Claire came into my life like sunlight through storm, clouds steady, warm, and patient. I'd been single for years, mostly because I poured everything into work and never found someone who felt like home. Then Ryan, my best friend since childhood, introduced us at a barbecue 3 summers ago. She was his coworker, and from the moment she laughed at one of my awkward jokes, I was done for. Claire had this way of listening that made you feel seen. She remembered every small thing I said. My favorite coffee order, the story about my mom's old garden, even the kind of music I played when I worked late nights. I'd never felt that kind of connection before. Ryan was thrilled too. "Man, she's perfect for you," he told me once, clapping my shoulder with that grin he always had. "You deserve this." And I believed him. The 3 of us became inseparable movie nights, road trips, birthdays. Claire and I fell into an easy rhythm. I handled the boring stuff like bills and planning while she brought color to everything. She made me believe that maybe love didn't have to be complicated or painful. Now, after 3 years, I've been quietly saving for the perfect ring. Every overtime shift, every skipped vacation, it's all been for this moment. I even told Ryan I'd need his help setting up the proposal. He seemed genuinely excited, already throwing out ideas for where and how to do it. Sometimes, when I looked at the 2 of them laughing together, I felt grateful. I had my best friend and the woman I loved in the same room to people I trusted more than anyone in the world. And that's what makes what happened next so hard to believe. Looking back, it's strange how natural everything felt back then, the 3 of us. Always together, like we'd formed our own little family. Ryan was practically my brother. We'd grown up side by side, survived high school disasters, bad jobs, and heartbreaks together. When Claire came along, she just fit. She and Ryan clicked instantly, sharing inside jokes I didn't even understand sometimes. I told myself it was a good thing. If my best friend and girlfriend got along, what more could I ask for? Weekends became a blur of the same pattern, Ryan coming over for dinner, Claire cooking while I set the table, laughter echoing through my apartment. He'd tease me for being too serious, and Claire would laugh, swatting him with a dish towel. "You two are impossible," I'd say, pretending to roll my eyes. Truthfully, I loved it. I thought it meant we were all close, that I'd finally built something solid after years of uncertainty. But slowly, things began to shift. Ryan started texting Claire directly about plans, saying it was easier to coordinate. I didn't think much of it at first, but sometimes I'd notice her smile at her phone and tuck it away quickly. When I asked what was funny, she'd shrugged. Just Ryan being Ryan, or little moments Ryan calling her smart girl when she solved a riddle during game night, or defending him when I got frustrated about him showing up late. I told myself I was overthinking. Jealousy wasn't something I wanted to become. One night I remember watching them from across the living room, the glow of the TV flickering across their faces as they laughed at something together. She looked so at ease, and he looked too comfortable. I brushed it off. They were my 2 favorite people in the world. Why would I question that? But deep down, something small and uneasy began to grow, and I ignored it. For now, after 3 years together, I finally decided it was time. I'd been saving every extra dollar for months. No nights out, no big purchases, just quiet determination. The ring I picked wasn't the biggest or flashiest, but it was elegant and timeless, just like Claire. I remember standing at the jewelry counter, holding that small box, thinking, this is it. This is the start of forever. Ryan was the first person I told. We were at our usual bar, the same place we'd been going to since college. I slid the small velvet box across the table. He stared at it for a long moment, then looked up with a tight smile. "Man, she's lucky. You really love her, huh?" I laughed, confused by how his voice almost cracked. "Yeah, more than I thought I could love anyone." He nodded slowly, fingers tapping against his glass. "Good, you deserve this." But something about his tone, it wasn't excitement. It was guilt. I brushed it off, telling myself I was reading too much into it. Over the next few weeks, I planned everything: where to propose, who to invite, the dinner afterward. Claire seemed distracted during that time. I'd ask her if she was okay, and she'd smile tiredly. "Just work stuff, baby. You know how it is." Sometimes she'd pull away when I tried to hold her hand or avoid eye contact when I talked about our future. But she'd always come back with a kiss and a quiet, "I love you." And I believed her, because I wanted to. The night before I was going to pick up the ring, Ryan texted me, "Got some stuff to handle tomorrow. Might be off the grid." I didn't think twice about it. Why would I? These were my people. If I'd listened to my gut then, I might have saved myself from what came next. But love makes you blind, and I was walking straight into the dark. The night before the proposal, everything seemed to fall into place, or at least that's what I told myself. I'd spent the day finalizing dinner reservations, rehearsing what I'd say, even checking the weather. It was supposed to be perfect. Claire, however, seemed distant, her voice flat when she said she wanted to spend the evening at her friend Maya's place. "Just a girls' night," she said, forcing a smile. "I need to relax before tomorrow. You've been planning so much, I don't want to stress you out." I kissed her goodbye at the door. "I'll pick you up at noon tomorrow, okay?" She nodded, hugged me tight, and whispered, "I can't wait." Her perfume lingered in the air long after she left, and I remember thinking how lucky I was. That same evening, Ryan called. "Hey man, might be off the radar tonight," he said quickly. "Got some last-minute errands to run?" He sounded rushed, distracted. I didn't ask what kind of errands. I was too caught up in excitement. I thanked him again for helping me plan everything. He said, "You're a good guy, you know that?" "Claire's lucky." His voice broke on her name, but before I could ask, he hung up. Later that night, I sat alone on the couch, ring box in hand, picturing the moment she'd say yes. The city outside my window glowed with life-distant laughter, cars passing, rain tapping the glass. I told myself tomorrow would be the best day of my life, but there was this strange heaviness in the air, like the calm before a storm. I couldn't shake it. I almost texted Claire to ask if everything was okay, but I didn't want to seem quaint. Instead, I turned off my phone, smiled to myself, and whispered, "Tomorrow, everything changes." I had no idea how right I was. The proposal never happened. Instead, I woke up to the kind of morning that shatters everything you think you know about love and loyalty. It started smaller comment from my coworker, Jenna. She mentioned seeing Claire's car outside Ryan's apartment the night before. "Guess they were hanging out before the big day," she said casually over coffee. I laughed it off, but something about her tone made my stomach twist. Ryan's place wasn't exactly on Claire's route home. In fact, it was 20 minutes in the opposite direction. Still, I tried to reason with myself. Maybe she'd stop by to help him with the surprise plans. That's what I told myself as I sat in my car later that afternoon, staring at his building, feeling ridiculous for even being there. Then I noticed something on Ryan's social media, a photo from last night. It was nothing special at first glance, just a mirror selfie of him holding a drink. But in the corner of the frame, barely visible, was a reflection of Claire's necklace, the one I bought her on our first anniversary. My chest went numb. I zoomed in until I couldn't deny it anymore. I called Ryan first. He answered on the second ring, his voice tight. "Hey man, what's up?" I didn't waste time. "Was Claire at your place last night?" Silence. Long, awful silence. Then he exhaled, shaky. "It just happened, okay? We were drunk. It was one time." My vision tunneled. I don't remember hanging up. I just remember sitting there, feeling everything drain out of me. When I confronted Claire, she cried, swore it meant nothing, that she loved me and didn't know why she did it. I couldn't even look at her. I canceled the engagement dinner that night. Texted both families, "It's off. Please don't ask why." Then I packed a bag, left the ring box on her counter, and walked out without another word. They didn't know it then. But I wasn't just ending an engagement. I was erasing myself from both their lives in the days that followed. I felt like I was watching someone else's life fall apart from the outside. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Every memory of the two of them, their laughter in my living room. The way Ryan used to pat my back, the warmth in Claire's voice felt poisoned. Everywhere I looked, I saw ghosts, so I made a decision. Not out of rage, but survival. I deleted my social media, blocked their numbers, and took a week off work. I packed up what little I cared about my clothes, my guitar, a few photos of my parents, and drove until the city disappeared behind me. I rented a small cabin 3 hours away and told no one where I went. That first night, the silence was deafening. No phone buzzing. No fake apologies. Just the sound of rain on the roof and my own thoughts clawing at me. I kept replaying that phone call with Ryan, his voice trembling, saying, "It just happened." As if that could ever explain betraying a brother. And Claire's tears, God. She cried like she was the victim. "I didn't mean it," she said. I was confused enough to ruin everything. I wrote her one final note before I left. No accusations, no shouting. Just one line: "You killed the best thing that ever happened to you." When I dropped it in her mailbox, I didn't look back. A few days later, mutual friends started messaging asking where I'd gone, saying Claire and Ryan were worried. I ignored them all. Let them worry. Let them sit in the silence they created, because for the first time in years, I wasn't trying to fix anything. I wasn't holding anyone together. I was gone and I wasn't coming back. I stayed off the grid for nearly 2 months, long enough for the noise to fade. No texts, no calls, no updates. Just quiet. But eventually, word trickled back to me through mutual friends and coworkers who didn't realize I wanted to stay invisible. That's when I started hearing about what became of them, Maria and Claire, the happy couple. Apparently, they made their relationship official just weeks after I disappeared. People said it was unexpected but sweet. Others called it disgusting. Most of our mutual circle cut them off immediately. Ryan's reputation tanked fast. He was known as the loyal guy, the dependable friend. But sleeping with your best friend's fiancée? That's a stain you don't wash off. Clients started pulling out from his freelance work. His name became a whisper, followed by disgust. As for Claire, she tried to rebuild. She posted pictures of dinners, trips, new beginnings. The captions read like desperate affirmations. Sometimes you have to follow your heart. But people saw through it. Her friends from work stopped inviting her out. Her family distanced themselves quietly. One post had barely a handful of likes where she used to get hundreds. I didn't comment. I didn't gloat. I just watched from a distance, detached. But there was something darkly satisfying in seeing them unravel without me lifting a finger. Still, part of me felt hollow. I didn't want to be that guy who fed on their misery. I wanted peace. But every time I thought about moving on, I'd see their faces in my mind, laughing together in my living room, planning behind my back. One night, while scrolling aimlessly, I stumbled upon an article about Ryan's business losing major investors. The timing lined up perfectly with my disappearance. And that's when I remembered he wasn't just my best friend. He was also my business partner. That was when an idea started forming quiet, cold, and deliberate. Ryan and I had built a small tech startup together 2 years before everything went to hell. It wasn't huge, but it was growing. Clients, investors, a real shot at something big. I'd handled the financial side, the paperwork, the legal registrations. Ryan had always been the face of it, the charm. We were supposed to balance each other out. Before I vanished, I'd left everything tidy, or so he thought. In reality, I'd transferred my shares into an anonymous holding I quietly controlled. Ryan's name was still on the public documents, but without my authorization, he couldn't make a single legitimate move. He must have thought I abandoned it all, that I was too broken to care. That was his mistake, a month after disappearing. I reached out to one of our biggest investors under a different email, posing as a representative for the holding company. I explained that unethical conduct had occurred, and that all contracts involving Ryan were being reviewed. Within weeks, funds were frozen, and the company's credit line collapsed. Ryan started scrambling, trying to convince investors to stay. He couldn't. I didn't do it out of spite, at least. That's what I told myself. It was justice. He'd taken my trust, my fiancée, and the life I built around them. All I took was what was already mine. One afternoon, a mutual friend sent me a screenshot from Ryan's Instagram story. It was a black screen with text. "Everything I worked for is gone." Funny how karma works. He didn't tag anyone, but he didn't need to. I knew who he meant. I watched his downfall unfold from my quiet cabin, feeling nothing at first. No satisfaction, no regret, just a numb, cold silence. But that night, the first time in months, I slept without waking up in anger. Ryan had destroyed my engagement. I had destroyed his empire, and somewhere deep inside, I realized this was only the beginning of what silence could do. You'd think revenge would feel like victory, that watching them fall apart would heal something inside me. But it did not really. When the dust settled, all I felt was empty. I'd burned down everything that tied me to them, yet I was still standing in the ashes. Nights were the worst. The cabin was too quiet. I'd sit by the window, staring out at the tree line, wondering if I'd gone too far, not far enough. I'd built my whole identity around love and loyalty. And when those collapsed, so did I. Sometimes I'd wake up with my heart racing, remembering Claire's voice breaking when I confronted her. It didn't mean anything, she'd said, but it meant everything. It meant my world had limits and I'd hit them. A friend reached out one evening, one of the few who hadn't taken sides. "You okay, man? You've been off the grid too long." I didn't answer. What was I supposed to say? That I'd ruined Ryan's life and still couldn't breathe right? That I'd erased myself from existence, but couldn't erase the ache? Through whispers and screenshots, I learned Claire and Ryan were living together now, barely scraping by. She'd lost her job after gossip about the affair spread through her office. Ryan's business was dead, and with it, his confidence. Mutual friends said they fought constantly. Money, trust, everything. One of them even claimed Ryan accused her of ruining his life. You'd think that would give me satisfaction. It didn't. Watching them self-destruct only made me realize how much of myself I'd lost trying to keep them from breaking me first. One night, I caught my reflection in the cabin window and didn't recognize the man staring back. He looked like someone who'd won a war but lost the reason he started. Fighting? That's when I knew EUI hadn't reached peace yet. I'd just reached rock bottom. It happened on an ordinary Thursday, months after I thought I'd buried every trace of my past. I was back in the city for the first time in nearly a year, running errands, trying to rebuild some version of a normal life. I stopped at a small cafe I used to love, the kind of place Claire and I would go to on lazy Sundays. I didn't even realize the irony until I heard someone whisper my name. Daniel. My chest tightened before I even turned. And there she was, Claire, standing by the counter, hair shorter, face thinner, eyes red-rimmed, like she hadn't slept in days. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Then she whispered, "I didn't think I'd ever see you again." I wanted to leave. Every instinct screamed at me to walk out. But something in her voice, shaky, hollow, made me stay. She stepped closer, hands trembling around a paper cup. "Ryan's gone," she said quietly. "He cheated on me. With some woman he met online. He left when I lost my job." I didn't say anything. Just watched her fall apart right there, tears streaking down her cheeks as people tried not to stare. "I'm sorry," she said. "For everything. I ruined you. I ruined us." My throat felt tight, but not from sadness. It was from clarity. For months I'd wondered what I'd say if I ever saw her again. Would I scream? Demand answers? But now, looking at her broken, hollow, barely a shadow of the woman I once loved, just felt free. "I hope you find peace someday," I told her. She reached for my hand, but I pulled away gently. "You already got your closure the night you chose him." Her voice cracked as I turned to leave. "Do you still hate me?" I didn't look back. "No," I said. "I just don't care anymore." After that day at the cafe, something shifted inside me. It wasn't joy or triumph, just release. I'd been holding on to a version of myself that existed before the betrayal, trying to scrape back what was lost. But standing there, watching Claire crumble, I finally understood Some things aren't meant to be rebuilt. They're meant to be left behind. I sold the cabin and moved to a smaller apartment near the edge of the city. I started therapy, something I'd always brushed off before. My therapist said something that stuck with me. You can't heal if you're only focused on proving them wrong. And she was right. For months, every choice I made was still about them. My silence, my revenge, my disappearance, it was all a reaction. But for the first time, I wanted to make choices that were just about me. I started reconnecting with old friends, the ones I'd ghosted when I vanished. Most of them welcomed me back with open arms, a few with understandable distance. But it felt good to talk again, to laugh without bitterness creeping in. I even picked up my guitar again, the same one that gathered dust while I was lost in anger. One night, after a late session, my therapist asked, "What does peace look like to you now?" I didn't have an answer then. But as the weeks passed, I realized peace wasn't about seeing them punished. It was about being able to think of them and feel nothing. I started dating again, slowly, carefully. Not looking for love, just connection. Someone honest, grounded. Someone who didn't remind me of Claire or the life I'd lost. And for the first time in a long time, I could look in the mirror and actually recognize the man staring back. He wasn't perfect, but he was finally free. A year passed before I realized I hadn't thought about Ryan or Claire in months. They'd become nothing more than old chapters in a book I no longer needed to reread. I'd built a new life, quiet, steady, and honest. My business had rebounded under a new name, one that nobody could trace back to them. The investors returned, not because I sought them out, but because good work has a way of resurfacing. One afternoon, while reviewing contracts at a cafe downtown, I overheard two women at the next table gossiping. "You remember that guy, Ryan? His company went bankrupt. He's working part-time now." The other laughed softly. "And Claire? She moved back in with her parents. No one hires her anymore. Word gets around." Wait, I didn't say a word. I just stirred my coffee and let the moment pass. There was no satisfaction, no gloating, only a strange, quiet calm. They'd built their own destruction. All I had to do was walk away. That evening, I made a donation to a local charity and organization that helps rebuild small businesses after betrayal or theft. The irony wasn't lost on me. I didn't leave a name, just an anonymous message for those starting over. Sometimes I still wonder if they ever think about me, if they realize what they lost, not just a relationship or partnership, but someone who truly would have stood by them for life. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. It doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that I finally learned the difference between revenge and closure. Revenge burns fast. It feeds the anger, but leaves you hollow. Closure, though, that comes quietly when you stop needing to be understood. As I left the cafe that night, city lights blurred through the window. For the first time in years, I felt light. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. It's disappearing so completely that they have to live with your absence forever.